Good morning. Jim Feig, your master photographer. I'm back with you today with my photo of the week and some words of wisdom about that photo. As you can see today, I've got my three twins back with me, smiling happily at you. You know, raising a child is a difficult undertaking. When you have twins, it becomes daunting. But with three twins, it's impossible. So I wanna relate some of the experiences my wife and I had trying to raise these three young girls to become adults who were very productive women in their lives. And where do we start? Well, let's start with the birth of the twins. That's probably a good place to start. Janet, the oldest one, is in the middle. She's 14 months older than the twins. When the twins arrived, I had to stay home with Janet to take care of her while Judy was in labor, my wife Judy. And we got a big surprise because we were expecting one big boy. The nurses were expecting one large boy. The doctor was expecting one large boy. And so when the phone call came, the doctor said, "Mr. Feig, you've got a daughter, beautiful daughter. She weighs 6 pounds, 1 ounce. He stopped for a second. And then he went on to say, and the other daughter, this beautiful daughter, weighs 5 pounds, 9 ounces. He said, "Congratulations." I suddenly had 3 children less than 2 years old. Panic. I had to quickly go out and get another set of everything. Another crib, another high chair, another this, another that. All the things I've been spending weeks accumulating, I had to reaccumulate in a matter of days. It was a big job, and it was a big job to raise these girls, but we worked at it and it worked well. Let's see, how do we get from these 3 young, innocent-looking girls to 3 very productive businesswomen who are skilled in their businesses? That's what I want to talk to you about today. Well, my wife and I use different techniques. She was one to crack the whip. I don't mean literally, but she was stern. She kept the girls in line. I was more lenient. I went on the idea that you support them and you lead them and you be their friend. Now, neither of us knew anything about child psychology. The only thing I knew about psychology was a freshman class I took in engineering school because I had to. But here we had the task of raising these 3 children to become productive adults. And I said, we found that we had to be 3 things to them. We had to be a parent, we had to be a leader, and we had to be a friend. Now, as a parent, because as a parent, we were responsible for them in the first place, so we had to take care of their daily needs, both physical and spiritual needs, really. We had to take care of their physical and spiritual needs and raise them by providing what they needed to grow and to learn. We had to educate them. We had to train them. Then as a leader, we needed to show them how to get around in the world. We had to show them how to deal with people. We had to show them how to cope with situations. We had to show that they could go out and be responsible individuals. Then as a friend, We had to have fun with them and enjoy life with them. But we had to keep these three things separate. We need to keep the parenting separate from the leadership, separate from the friendship. If we gave them some advice, they needed to know if that was advice from a friend, something that they should consider and maybe do, maybe not do, or whether that was a directive from a parent and they should respond accordingly. We also found very quickly that they were individuals. They look alike, they're very much alike, but in some ways they're very much different. Janet, the middle one, as I say, she's the oldest by 14 months. She's grown up to be a proper, dependable, conservative individual that you can trust and rely on. Kathy, the one on the right, is the compassionate one. She's the one that's caring and always looking out for the others and always making sure that everyone gets taken care of. She's also a good manager. She manages things well. Christy, the one on the far left there, the smiling one. Well, they're all smiling, but Christy's always smiling. Christy is the outgoing one, the carefree one, a tremendous leader. She can take charge of anything. She worked for CNN for a while. She could fly into an unknown country where she couldn't speak the language, set up a broadcasting station and have news going in just a short time without much help at all. All she had is the duffel bag she kept under her bed and the couple of cases of cameras and equipment. Let me tell you some stories about these three girls to give you an idea of what we went through as we were teaching them and training them and helping them grow into the persons they have become today. Start out with Kathy. Kathy, all three of these girls are graduates of Baylor University. Kathy, in her junior year at Baylor, announced to us that, going back, she wasn't going to go back to Baylor for her next semester of work. She decided to spend a semester in Japan, learning the culture and the language. Well, we needed to support her as a parent, or as parents. So, yes, we said, go ahead, give it a try, see what you can do. Now, this is the first time the two twins have been separated for any extended length of time, and I think our first telephone bill was something about $600 or so for the month, but we survived, and they survived, and Kathy has been back to Japan several times, both in working and visiting relationships. And she has spent probably much of the last 15 years or so in the Far East with her job. Now Janet in the middle, she's another Baylor graduate, and when we were first taking her to Baylor as a freshman, she wanted to be there bright and early. And we were living over in the Orange Beaumont, Texas area at the time, so we were about 6 hours away from Waco. And to make sure that she got there early, because we had talked about getting up about maybe 6 and being on the road by 8 and getting there early afternoon. Well, she wanted to be there real early, so during the night, the three of them, when these three work together, they can do anything. So during the night, the three of them got together. They set forward every clock in the house and in the car and on the coffee maker and even the watch on Judy's wrist while she was sleeping. so that we would get up early and get off and be on our way to Waco when Janet wanted to be there. Well, it worked. We got up and we had our breakfast. We looked outside. Pretty dark yet, but gee, it must be cloudy out there. Had the car all packed. We shoved Janet in the back seat where there was a little room left, and we got in. We took off. We were probably close to Conroe by the time I realized what was happening. I looked out there and sun should have been up by now, and it's still dark out there. I said, gee, it must be real cloudy. And I looked out there and the stars were shining. And Janet was chuckling in the back seat. So we got her to Waco bright and early in the morning, and she was happy. As I say, those three, when they get together, can do just about anything. Now Christy, let me tell you about Christy. She has her major was in communications. All three of these girls have master's degrees. Christy's was in communications. She worked for about 15 years at CNN before she went on to bigger things. But when she first graduated from Baylor, she was having a problem finding a job. Difficult time finding a job. She had all applications out to all the TV stations around Texas. She wanted to be a news reporter or a news correspondent. Nothing was showing up. Well, she was struggling a little bit, and she was living with us here in Victoria. And one day she got a phone call from one of her friends. She had interned with CNN during her junior year at Baylor and spent a summer in Washington, D.C. working for CNN. And she got a call from the roommate that she lived with when she was there, and her roommate says, I've got an apartment now and I need another roommate to help pay the rent. Why don't you come to D.C.? Well, Christy looked upon that as a call from God. So off she went to D.C. No job. I'll tell you how we did it. We loaded her belongings into a U-Haul truck, and Janet and Christy and I did the driving. But before that truck left Victoria, Christy got a phone call, and it was from the boss that she worked for when she interned with CNN. And he offered her a part-time job. So she was elated. Now it was really a call from God. So off we went. All of Christy's belongings in the U-Haul. I was driving the U-Haul part of the time. My older daughter Janet drove it part of the time. Janet worked and lived in D.C. also, so she was going back with us. We had Christy's dog Bailey, and we had Christy's little Honda CRX, little one-seater. So off we went, the CRX and the U-Haul, headed to D.C. Well, we got to Mobile, Alabama on our first night, and we stopped and smuggled Bailey into the hotel room. And that morning, Christy was sort of getting cold feet. She said, I think we better turn around. I don't really have anything in D.C. yet. And I looked at her and said, no, we need to keep going ahead. We need to support you. We need to have some leadership here. We need to encourage you. So I encouraged her, and we continued on our trip to D.C. We got her unloaded. We got her moved in the apartment. We got Bailey settled down. We dropped Janet off where she was going. And Christy started working part-time for CNN. She worked there for 14 years as a news correspondent all over the world. Developed her name there. And then she went on as communication director for an International Red Cross, and then on for the World Health Organization. All these girls were successful. Janet's degree and training is in city planning and city management. She has worked for the city of Frisco and the city of Arlington in Texas. Right now, she's just starting a job as a planner with the city of Calgary in Canada. Kathy, as I say, Kathy spent some time in Japan. She spent a lot of time in the Far East. Kathy works with the U.S. Foreign Service and the Commerce Department. She spent just about the last 15 years in China as a representative for the U.S., helping both U.S. and Chinese businessmen accomplish whatever they wanted to accomplish. She adopted a little girl, Chinese girl, while she was there, and so we have Carrie, our Chinese granddaughter. All three of these are successful. Christy, as I said, went on to be communication director for the International Red Cross and then the World Health Organization. Early this year, she started her own company. She's working out of New York City, working internationally. She has clients in Europe, clients in Africa, clients in Asia, and some clients in the U.S. So all three of these girls have grown up to be very successful, very determined business women. They're reliable, dependent. They're all three the type of people you'd like to have on your side if anything comes up that you need help with. How do we manage that? How do we raise these girls to be such respectable, such responsible is the word we want, such responsible individuals? Well, I asked one of my twins that one time, and she said, well, the secret is, she said, Mom cracked the whip, but you were understanding. She says, when Mom told us to do something, we did it because she cracked the whip and we didn't want to suffer the consequences. She says, when you told us to do something, we did it because we didn't want to disappoint you. Now, the Bible tells us that children should respect their parents, but that's something that should not be automatic. The parent needs to earn the respect of the children by the way they treat them, by the way they raise them. And we've found that whatever technique we used, I don't know exactly what it was, but it should be written down for posterity. Whatever a technique we used worked very well. Our children respect us. We respect our children. They're very responsible citizens. And I give you my three twins. This is Jim Fogg, coming from South Bridge Street Live. We'll see you next time. Thank you.